Let's double check here. Yes, I think I'm live. So just jump into it. Hello, I am going to be presenting today Ableton's wavetable um, little built-in device is an instrument because it's in the instruments tab. It comes in with Ableton Suite. I'm currently using Ableton 11, but it hasn't really had much change in previous versions for quite a while now. So it's a wavetable synthesizer, which means that you would have a whole bunch of waves that you can see here, which is the tab for the first oscillator. It has a lot of different waves that you can scroll through. So right now I'm in a very basic sine wave. If I start going up here, you can see that wave starts changing, goes from a sine wave, triangle wave, sawtooth, and going up to pretty close to a square wave, um, which is very interesting. You have in this synthesizer, you have two oscillators, a sub oscillator, an envelope, and amplitude envelope, and two free envelopes are right here. Then you have two LFOs with multiple waves, a whole matrix section, um, and a filter, which is very interesting, and I'll get into that a bit later. Cool. The first oscillator and second oscillator, they're the same. So exploring the first oscillator, you have a lot of different banks of waves. So if you go say noise, that's just not going to sound too nice. But you get vintage, you can see all those different, um, like the Juno 6, all those different vintage synthesizers, the OB6, very interesting. Um, Log saw, that's pretty high. Um, and in there you have, like you saw, a lot of different waves that you can scroll through. Going back to the basics, if you see down here, you would have this is just transposing. This is detuning for that specific oscillator. You also have a modulation session, which is usually set to modern, but you can have a none, which is no modulation going into that wave. You can have FM modulation, so FM synthesis starting to appear, which is pretty cool. You can also have pulse width modulation, which is in the classic. And you also have modern, which is warping and folding, which is something that you do a lot in what is it, West Coast synthesis or booklet synthesis. Um, Same thing with the second oscillator. You can get some very interesting sounds if you have both of them. So you do tune one a little bit. You can see how it start canceling out. Um, and you can have that sort of phaser effect. You also 50 cents. Actually, pretty nice sound. I'll keep it for now. Going to the filter, this goes for a more harsher little sound. That sounds pretty nice. This filter, you have a low pass and a high pass filter. Um, you can change the slope of this filter, which is 12 per octave or 24 per octave. You can also change the modeling of the filter. So clean would be the Ableton own filters, and then these are emulations of other synthesizers like the Oscar or the MS-20. You go to the MS-20, which one that I really like, and you start rolling off. You can see that a new item popped up down here because that's a feature that the MS-20 has, and the clean version doesn't have, which is the drive. So you can up the drive a bit, you can up the resonance, and it has the MS-20 very nice filter. I like it. You can keep like that. The envelope, sorry, I skipped it. Amplitude envelope's not much to write home about. It's just it works as a regular envelope would. You have two free envelopes, which you can route to whatever you want in the matrix section. We're just gonna go in next. We're gonna jump into it. The matrix section has you can route anything to anything, and anything that you can touch, you can see that if you touch something else, in a little box appears around it. And so it's something that you can modulate. And you can see down here that the name of the, if you see here, the name of the target, because the target row changes by what I click. So say if I click the frequency of the filter, this is now the filter one frequency. So I can change, um, I can modulate this frequency with whatever I want to modulate it with. You can modulate it with the amplitude envelope, with the two free envelopes, with the LFO, also with the velocity of my MIDI keyboard, how hard I hit it. Although this keyboard is not really velocity sensitive. Um, it's a bit velocity sensitive, but not too much. But you can modulate things with it, with the note. So it's essentially that will be like tracking the note, and the higher the note goes, the more you modulate it. With the press, you can have the aftertouch. With the slide, or you can do it randomly. And you do that by just going, say, if you want to modulate this with the first telephone, then you bring it up. And you can see that it starts modulating. It stops moving once I stop pressing it because it's in re-trigger right now. So the first telephone is in re-trigger, but if I take it off, it's just going to keep going um, when I'm not playing it. But you're not going to see it because I'm not playing it. And this gets triggered when I start playing notes. Going to the LFO, you can see you actually use the rate, the amount of it, the shape. Um, you can modulate it a bit, or the offset, so you can offset the wave by a full 360. And you have very different symbols here, which is the shape of the telephone. So you can keep doing this. You can have a triangle. You can have this, bring the shape back. You can have this sawtooth, square, and this is random. And you can have the rate. It feels almost like sample and hold, which is basically what it is. They just choose a different, they just have a random number generator go and they choose it at the amount of the rate that you choose it to be. But the cool thing is about this, that you can even modulate the rate of this LFO with another LFO, say with the envelope. Because you see here it says LFO1 rate. So if I go to the second envelope and I want to make it go faster, this envelope is controlling also the rate. So if I bring this rate to 0 and this up to 100, you can see the shape of the envelope expressed here. If I have a loop, which actually does something very interesting. Oh, we're gonna be here for 11 seconds. Sorry, I didn't realize. That's probably a lot easier and it loops over and over again. There's something that is very, very interesting thing you can get into. You can have a whole list because the more you keep on clicking, well, we're not, this is empty. So as soon as I click something else, Ableton is going to replace this with something else. But you can have rows and rows and rows of it if I just keep that modulation the way it was. And if I click on something else, say the detuning of this is going to show up as a different element of the list. But I can also modulate. Going to the last section here, you can choose the type of synthesizer that you want. You can have a mono synth, so high, so hot. Let's roll this back a bit. You can have noise, which I actually really like. You hear the noise coming in through it. Or you can have random note, precision spread, which is actually very interesting. It spatializes it a bit, which is a very nice sound. And that's essentially it. There's a lot that you can do with it that I did not go into. Going through all these different um, banks of sound can really take a whole afternoon, a whole day just doing that. Or even loading your own user defined um, just user. You can just drop a sample. It analyzes it for you and breaks it down into a wavetable. There's so much you can do with it. It has the availability for you to have not polyphonic, but the aftertouch, it comes with it, and it's something that you can matrix. There's just a lot of in-depth synthesis that you can do, and it's just something that I really encourage everybody looking into, especially if they have Ableton. If you don't know where to start, you can always look at their list of presets that they have, um, and see how they do the sounds, how you can learn from it. And yeah,